Hello, everybody. This is CJ Wiley with More Adventures on the Road. This is actually my first podcast. I've told a lot of stories about my adventures hustling, gambling, and mentioned this man several times, Omaha John. I met him when I was a teenager, and he was already one of the best road players in the country and was fairly unknown back then. There wasn't video cameras and stuff like that. So as long as we used different names, we could stay under the radar and get a lot of action. So, how are you doing, John? It's been a while. You doing all right up there in Omaha? Keeping the snow off?
Doing great, CJ. Great to talk to you again.
Yeah. So let's just. I'd like to kind of know more about. How did you start playing? What was your? I presume you started there in Omaha. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into the game?
Sure. I had a friend across the park from where I lived. He had a pool table, so I'd play over there once in a while, but I didn't think anything of it. And then one day, I went to downtown Omaha, and there was a place called Paxton Billiards that just, as soon as I walked in the door, I knew this is where I wanted to be. It's 21 tables. They had rack boys. They kept them clean, and there was a lot of pool players. So that's when I started to take pool a little more seriously.
Did you just have a knack for it? I mean, were you like noticeably better than others that were kind of starting out at the same time?
No, I worked at it. It
Yeah.
was just the desire was there. So I definitely wasn't a natural,
Yeah.
but I loved to play pool.
So when was the first time you won a little bit of cash in the game? Because that's kind of what always hooks us a little bit is doing something you love and making money at it. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So going to South High School, there was a pool hall about 2 blocks away from the place, and the place usually had 20 or 30 kids in there all during the day because there was modular scheduling. So you'd go to class for 20 minutes and then shoot pool, and then most of the time I wouldn't make it back. But we'd play ring games, mostly 10 cents on the 5, 15 cents on the 9. And I was starting to win 30, $40 a day till they barred me.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd get on the bus and go downtown again to the Paxton and then spend the rest of the day down there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I thought, who needs to go to school when you got 100, 200, 300 in your pocket? Now, this is 1966, 67.
So that was some money. Yeah. I started out where I played. They had 3 tables and it was a dime a game. And the owner of the pool room would rack the balls and put the rack over his head and, and go down and rack the next balls. And we used to play for these little $5 tickets, so it wasn't anything, very high. But
no.
Then I started branching out and going to Kirksville, Missouri, which is about 20 miles away. Where did you start where you're playing for more money, or when did you first take a road trip?
Well, when Omaha dried up, for me, as far as being able to play as much pool as I wanted to play, I must have heard something about California or something, but I could get a one-way ticket to Los Angeles for $50.
Yeah.
Even though I was 16, 17, there was no, nowadays you got to have an adult escort you on and all this jazz, but I just jumped on. And so I went to San Francisco first, and I went to the Palace because I had read about the Palace, but that was pretty much, I think they were at Cochran's, and I never went to Cochran's.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a bus down to Long Beach, and there was 3 pool halls in downtown Long Beach. One in Signal Hill called Beautiful Billiards. That was a 24-hour spot.
Yeah.
And I'd go there for 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a pop, and you play pool constantly. And then, of course, there was Vern Peterson's Palace in Bellflower, California. Most action spot ever.
Really?
I've heard Keith talk about it. I mean, it was just packed with players for like 3 or 4 years, just nonstop. So I thought, this is it. I mean, you can play constantly, and gamble.
Yeah.
you never had to practice. You just always gamble. So that's where I got my, I guess, fast improvement is
Cut your teeth in the. You mentioned Keith. That's Keith McCready. When's the first time you ran into him?
it was there, and he's I played him for 5 a game and busted him, and he immediately went to sleep under the pool table.
Is that right?
Yeah, because somebody said he might have took something to help him go to sleep or something before he
Oh
played.
yeah.
But then later on we played, and the first time I ran into him, he gives me the 6 on his break, 7 on mine, and beat me.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know he was given all those champion bar table players in California, like the 7 and the 6 at one time. I mean, that was like he was something else. So
Yeah.
so you lost to him. Is that the last
First
time you played
time,
him?
yeah, that was the first and only.
Okay. Yeah.
And then from there on, we just kept. I think the last time I played him, I beat him with the last 2.
Okay. And did you guys go on the road together at all, or?
We took a little trip together. We were in, I think it was Milwaukee at a tournament, and then we went to that tournament. The kid that died and he lived, it was in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, Childress,
Yeah,
Clyde.
yeah. We went over there and he won the tournament.
Keith did.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, one of the when I first started going on the road and hearing about you, that you had this road partner that it was kind of you guys kind of went together like Batman and Robin. It was Omaha John and Surfer Rod.
Oh, the Surfer, God, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Surfer. When he was a real character. Like I've heard so many stories about him.
Yeah. He's a good guy, smart, but he didn't know when to pull up.
Yeah.
If he had a bad game, he'd just keep trying to chase it down. But he could always pump up because he'd have all these proposition bets. He came to Omaha and beat a guy pretty good playing golf on a bar table. First time I seen him. And then I was in the service. My pool career kind of has 2 parts prior to going in the Army, and then when I got out. And then when I got out of the service, I was in Denver, and he was living there.
Yeah.
So we had a little, compadre stuff there. But then he came to Omaha, and then we started to go on the road quite a bit. And he'd play 8-ball, and I'd play 9-ball.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
he liked that big ball bar table 9-ball, right?
he liked that big ball. I mean,
Yeah.
I liked it too because it break balls open and stuff. These bar balls now, they don't seem to move. They don't seem to move the object balls around when you want to open up a space.
Yeah.
They just.
You had to have a good stroke with that big ball too. I remember some of those tables. I couldn't. If I was 3 feet away from the ball, I had to hit it like really hard just to draw it back to where I was. 3 or 4 feet. So you had to follow the ball around.
Back on that old cloth, that was tough.
Yeah. I remember being with you, and I've come out talking about this touch of inside, but you told me one time that you tried to make the ball like float from position to position, like it was on a string.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way they used to describe it.
Yeah.
What were you doing there? I mean, your game was so consistent. I mean, I'd literally watch you play for days at a time and not make a mistake. I mean, tell us a little bit about what was your philosophy about pool and which enabled you to play at that speed all the time.
Well, you're always on different equipment because you're on the road.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as in good a shape as it is today. And and I had learned or kind of thought to hit every ball the same.
Yeah.
So you're not, it's kind of like your touch of inside. You're always hitting the tip almost in the same spot every time. Well, this way it's angles, and then if you needed to go 6 inches forward, you just float the 6 inches, or you float the 12 inches, or whatever you need to do. Same with the draw, and so you didn't have to slow roll balls. Number
Yeah.
one, and you're not slow rolling one shot and hitting hard the next shot, and you're keeping everything consistent, and it works.
Yeah.
It worked for me. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that with all the top champions, especially the road players. I mean, Buddy Hall was one like that just seemed like he hit everything kind of the same speed. And like you said, and from things you told me and several of the other players I was around, I was just really taught not to slow roll balls. And like you said, a lot of it was because we're playing on different types of tables and they'll roll off and different cloth. But I always felt like I hit everything. I always called it like popping it, like popping
Right.
the shot, like popping a whip or something.
Yeah.
Did you use that expression, like popping the ball?
Pop it in there. Sure.
Yeah, that was pretty typical way to describe it. And then if I played on a table that rolled off, I kind of liked it. If I was going to play a really strong like tournament player, I wanted to get him on a table that was kind of gimmicky, that was rolled off a little bit and had like funny cut pockets. I think you can relate to that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you played pretty much in the underground world on the road. And when was the first time you played in like a big tournament?
Oh, gee, I'm not sure. I played for at that period. If you wanted to play in a tournament, they were usually just big table tournaments.
Yeah.
Usually 5,000 added. We'd be in one like Denver one week and go to who knows where the next. And but I remember doing that for quite a while. And every once in a while there'd be a bigger one, but I made money on the bar table. So when I go to those tournaments, now I'm playing the Seagulls and the Buddy Halls and those guys on a big table. So it was it was a tough way to make a buck, but I enjoyed it. I liked the competition, and there was usually action besides the tournament. So I would be more focused on the other action as opposed to focusing on the pool tournament. It was the action that lured me to those places.
Do you remember being at that tournament in Clinton, Iowa that everybody was at? I think isn't that the tournament Dallas West ran 10 racks in a row on you in the semifinals?
It was the biggest barrage I was ever hit with. It was, I was ready to I'm thinking I'm going to win this tournament. And then here comes Dallas, and he makes like 3 or 4 up 9 balls on the break. He's got 2 or 3 shortcuts, and then he broke around out the rest of them. I mean, it was like boomity boom boom.
Yeah.
And Buddy played him next, and Buddy made him change the rack. I wish I would have thought of that, and I think Buddy beat him.
Yeah, I think Buddy made him change tables, didn't he? And the rack, and Buddy saw that and says, we got to change that a little bit.
But that was one of the fastest lickings I ever took. I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah, I was there at that tournament. I was like 16 years old, and just everybody was there. And Keith was going around. I think he had a shirt that said "The world's got the last 2" or something on it. Yeah. And Buddy ended up winning. But yeah, that type of bar table tournament was a lot different than what you see today. A lot of those players were dressed up in like suits, and I mean, it was like being in a movie, being around those guys, and you were one of them. I think that was one of the biggest bar table tournaments I'd seen. And then you went on to win the World Series of Tavern Pool, the Miller Lite. Isn't that correct, in Vegas?
Yeah, 1982.
82, yeah. I won it in 86, I think.
I was thinking it was a year after.
Or maybe it was 84. Actually, I think it was 2 years. I think it was 2 years after, because it was the Bud Light. Remember, Miller Lite had it, and then they backed out, and then Bud Light took it over. And when I won it, I think you won 25,000. When you won it, I won like 12,000 or less. I think it's because the money was reduced when they lost that Miller Lite sponsorship. But that was quite a tournament to win. Like players like Alan Hopkins was in that. Did you play Alan in that
I
tournament?
played Alan Hopkins, Little David. I can't remember the rest of them, but I do have. I think somewhere I saw the results. I had,
Yeah,
and I knew Ronnie Allen was there. Of course, Keith was there. Everybody, Matlock.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember.
Matt, yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember Matlock being there because I had to. I was hooked behind one of Alan Hopkins' object balls, and I had to jump the 8, and I jumped the 8, and it jumped his ball, and then it jumped over the 8 ball, and the cue ball went on the floor, and the referee handed him the cue ball, and I'm thinking, I don't lose. I wasn't good at reading the rules before, but all
Oh,
my life you lost if you scratched on the 8,
well,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, but no, and then Ellen ran out, and I'm looking at Matlock, and I shrugged my shoulders, thinking he might know what's going on, but he didn't.
that's kind of odd. Yeah, usually when you scratch on the 8 or jump the table, you lose.
Yeah, back then you did. Not now, you don't, but back then you did.
Yeah, speaking of rules, that's another thing. I've been talking a lot about how this one foul ball in hand started, and that it really wasn't how everybody played back when the gambling was going on, like you're talking about. You played mostly the two foul, didn't you? What did you call that? Just like push out or
Two-shot shootout.
two shot shootout? That's what I called it. Yeah, okay, that's where I probably got it from you.
Yeah,
But
there were
so
different.
what's the difference in your opinion between the two shot shootout and one foul as
Oh
far
God,
as playing it and gambling and stuff? I mean,
we could write a book.
right. That's exactly what I've said. I can write a book about two foul or two
Yeah,
shot shootout, and I can only write. I'd struggle to write a chapter about the one foul because there's just not much to it.
no,
You
it's
know.
just yeah, and then you throw in the 10 ball where you got to call your pocket. Oh my God.
Yeah.
At least if you're playing slop, you can kick hard and maybe get lucky. But
Yeah.
anyway, you had so much more control over the game,
Yeah.
and you could go for. And a guy, I remember the first time I asked somebody, I'm young, and I said, "Well, what's the deal? What do you do on this two-shot shootout?" He said, "You push to a shot you can make, and the other guy can't." And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. But a lot of times you push out to these crazy shots that you know most people won't even think about shooting. And I still to this day am hitting balls. I love shooting shots that are impossible. It
Yeah.
just because they're more fun to make for one thing, but it gives you that practice that you need if you do get that occasion to push out after the break.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
used to like to play two-shot shootout, spot all the balls.
Yeah. Yeah, there
So,
was different variations of it. What that just met you spot everything. Like if it's behind the line, they always spot.
well, and if you break and make 3 balls, they all come up.
Oh, okay.
If you shoot the 8 and scratch, 8 comes up and you're shooting a spot shot. See?
Yeah.
And you dog it on them spot shots, especially, if it's getting close to crunch time.
Yeah, yeah. People don't realize that. I equate that spot shot to kind of like a free throw in basketball. When that pressure's on, it's
Mhm.
not as easy as what people think. Plus, I mean, I remember practicing them a lot because not only do you need to make the spot shot, but you got to be able to get the cue ball anywhere on the table.
Right.
And you remember shooting the one where you draw it over to the side rail. That used to come up quite a bit, where the ball would be on the rail opposite of where you're shooting, and you'd have to make the spot shot and draw it over for position.
Right.
And I bet I've shot that shot hundreds of times.
Yeah, where the 8's on the spot and the 9's on the end rail on a
Yeah,
little diamond or something, and you got to stick it. And with the big ball, that was a little bit of a problem,
yeah,
for some of us. So,
yeah,
yeah, but then, you push out to a shot you can make, the other guy can't. And then, of course, you could give up a ton of weight. And then the weaker players would have, a little bit of a problem. They'd pass on those tough shots because nobody was shooting a safety. It was
yeah,
all offense, and that's the other thing that you don't see as much. taking that chance on a crazy shot. Most of the time, people are playing safe,
Yeah.
trying to
And
get.
what I would add with a player of your caliber is you may have started out that way, but when you got seasoned, that's when, and I think the best display of knowledge and pocket billiard skill is the 2 and 3 way shots where you're shooting a really hard shot, you're playing safe or using another ball to block that pocket, and you're playing position on the next ball. To me, that's the cream de la cream of pool shots, whether you're playing 9 ball or one pocket or whatever. That's a great shot,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and players with your knowledge, I know a lot of times you would roll out to shots and you're tempting them to shoot, but then you would do something else. You'd play safe or maybe shoot it in a different pocket that they didn't even see. Uh,
Yeah, you push out a couple times and they pass, and you win that exchange. Now the third time, now they're thinking, oh shoot, I can't give him the third one. So now they try it and just screw the whole thing up.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of times I got where, I'd push out shots where it looked like they had 2 options to make it in either corner. And then I'd like back cut it in the side. And that's something they wouldn't even see. And that's another thing that just, being around players like yourself and a lot of road players, we knew all those tricks, and like double kissing balls in and stuff. You could do
Right.
that pretty easy with the big ball. But yeah, I know a lot of people was unhappy when they went to the 1 foul because, man, it was just, I think they did it for 2 reasons: to speed up the game and to put more luck into it where they get more participants, which you can't blame them as far as being the promoter of the event. But the pool players never really had any influence on the rules. Do you think? I think they were just kind of, and they're still changing them now to where it just doesn't make any sense. It's like putting band-aids on something.
Yeah. Well, I remember when it first came up. I was hitting all these almost weekly. There's a tournament somewhere, and I remember Grady's kind of the tournament director, and he says, "Okay, this is what we're doing this time. We're playing 1 foul, ball in hand. The game's too slow. People complain about the game being too slow with 2-shot shootout." I remember pretty distinctly because I can see the room I was sitting in when he was saying it.
Yeah.
And so that was his that I remember him saying was the reasoning was to speed the game up. Well, it slowed it down really.
Yeah, it didn't do what they thought, and it brought in kicking into the game, which I really don't think was ever supposed to be a part of pocket billiards. That's more of a billiard thing. Of course, if you change a rule, people are going to get really good at it. Mike Siegel was known to lock people up. They called him Captain Hook, and then Efren comes out and he's got that billiard knowledge and starts kicking safe and it brought in a whole new skill to the game, but I still don't think it really belongs there. It's just not it's not a pocket billiard skill, I don't think.
Yeah, and 9 balls an offensive game.
Yeah,
That's the way it was, I think, meant to be played. And there's more fun watching it when you got people shooting shots rather than ducking
exactly.
and kicking.
Yeah, he got down. Nowadays, instead of trying to break balls out, they'll just play shape behind them and just lock the guy up. And I don't like that. I just don't like that strategy. I mean, it's a lack of strategy, really, because the playing the 2-shot shootout, there's a lot more. There really is a lot more strategy because you're not trying to like hook them and leave the ball, froze on the end rail. A lot of times, it's better to play safe and leave the ball fairly close to the pocket where they have a hard time rolling out. Mm-hmm. And of course, now there's the jump cues. What do you think about the jump cues? That's
I kind of marvel I'm so bad at it because I could jump with a Mucci with a big ball and never thought much of it. And now I've got a jump cue and I suck at jumping.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the cloth made it easier to jump. We used that rubberback cloth, right? And it was easier to jump the balls. Yeah. I'm the same way. Like I could jump over a whole ball with my regular cue. Now I can't even get over the edge of it. and I can hit it just as hard. It just won't get off that cloth unless you have a jump cue. And so
bar table's a little easier.
Yeah, and it just took away the two-way shots and the three-way shots, because if you shoot a hard shot and block them with a ball, they just get their jump cue out and jump over it and make it.
Yeah,
So,
it might be the worst thing you can do is leave a guy who jumps good at a jump shot.
Yeah, I try
at least going to make contact.
Yeah,
unless you freeze them up to the ball.
Yeah, I change my strategy a lot of times where the most important thing is getting them real close to that ball that they're snookered with, and it doesn't matter so much about the object ball. You just don't want them to be able to, even because today, even 3 inches, a lot of those guys, Fedor Gorst, he's a really strong jump shot magician. I've seen him make some incredible ones, but again, I just don't think, the purest form of 9-ball, you really can't have those jump cues. And I'm trying to, introduce a new game that brings back the strategy like you're talking about, the push out strategy. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to release that to the world here within the next month. We're working on it and getting everything down. But yeah, I wanted to talk to you about it. Huh?
It'd be awesome to see a tournament played that way. And I kind of like to see guys who've never played it, even the top players who've never played. Of course, they've got knowledge pushing out after the break. But then when I played a couple guys that way that have never played it before, they'll start playing safe right away. And then they'll soon figure out, well, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. He's just going to push out.
Yeah, it's a waste of a shot to play safe like that.
Sure. So, and then they wake up. And then I played a couple guys around here that in the end, they said it wasn't that bad. They liked it.
Yeah.
So I've got personal knowledge that guys who've never played it before, you can turn them around.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll definitely learn more playing that game, so that when they do go back to playing the regular 9-ball, they'll have an advantage because they'll see those 2- and 3-way shots. And most people, like when I first came on the tour, off the road back in '91, those guys had a hard time playing me because I shot at things that they weren't used to people shooting at. But I'm also got a safety component too. So there's a lot of times, and you might get lucky too. I mean, it's at least you're giving yourself a chance to win. I hate winning just because a guy misses a kick shot or something. That just, to me, that's not winning. Winning's, to feel good about winning is to make that hard shot and run out. To me, that's the most rewarding thing. So,
yeah, I see so many guys, they play safe, and the guy, they think they've made a good move. The guy kicks and somehow puts the re-safety on them.
Yeah.
And now, guess what? You lost when you should have probably shot at the pocket and tried to run out.
Yeah, that happens a lot. But and again, that's where I had some success against Efren. My first match, I beat him, but I caught him kind of off guard. But my strategy was to just shoot everything that I could, because if you hook him, your odds are you're probably the underdog of getting an easier shot.
Yeah.
You might not get one at all. So
I got out right before the Filipinos game over, so I never had to go through any of that. But I've watched them play, and that'd be a tough way to make a living. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They got that game down to a science. Did you play much? Well, I know you play, 8-ball was probably one of your best games as well, but because that World Series of Tavern Pool was 8-ball, right?
There was an 8-ball and a 9-ball. I got 5th through 9th in the 9-ball. Guy, I couldn't believe the guy's got 3 balls on the table, the 9's on the spot, and the 7's in the middle of the table. He shoots a 7-9 combination.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and the reason I think I lost that match was because I kind of slow rolled to a safety, and I missed the whole ball. Because
really?
Table roll, see?
Yeah.
And but I think I got 5th through 9th. I think what the bracket was in that 9-ball. I had a shot to win them both.
Yeah, that'd been awesome. Any one pocket? Did you I've seen you play a couple times. Did you like one pocket or?
I didn't enjoy it too much. I played it when I played pool just to be in action, and you gotta do it all when you're doing it for a living. But I just enjoyed the. I like straight pool. I like banks. I like 8 ball and 9 ball.
Yeah.
Billiards is fun, but we don't have any billiard tables around here, so.
Yeah. Well, you were known to be so mentally strong, and I've seen it many times. It was funny. You probably don't remember, but we were in Topeka, Kansas at that. It was like the Playboy Club, I think. And we're in there, trying to make some money. And I got to talking to this guy that I'm supposed to be trying to get down with. And I came back to you and I said, "Man, John, I don't think I can beat him. I like him." And you looked at me and said, "You'll still like him after you beat him." That was one of the funniest things, but it was so true. And I use that going forward. It's like, if I liked somebody and didn't want to beat him, I always heard you say, "Well, you'll still like him after you beat him." They might not like you as much, but you'll still like them. So,
There's all these things you learn along the path of getting to where you got. Little things like, I don't think I can beat him. I like him too much.
yeah,
But you just got to take that
that,
away. And
that ends up being kind of an excuse too. I mean, if the other guy wants to gamble too, because I've had battles with people on the pool table and then been real good friends with them, and that's kind of how it should be. But do you remember in South Carolina? I've written that story when we were in that bar and the where I beat the bar owner playing 6 ball,
yeah,
and then we went outside and we knew the guy was mad at us, and we went outside and it was pouring down rain, and I know you'd had trouble starting your car, and
yeah.
I still remember like it was yesterday. You put the key in and you looked over at me and it engaged, and we were both like sighed with relief because we did not want to go back in that bar. I don't think we probably could have.
Well, the biggest role we got was when his wife walked in about when he was going to want to, because they told us, don't go over there because you ain't going to get out with the money.
Oh,
You
really?
remember?
I don't remember that.
Oh my God, yeah. And I said, heck with it. We got to make some money here. So we go
Yeah.
over there. Well, he's about to take the money. He was a crop duster and a bar owner.
Yeah.
And he was about to, he says, you ain't getting out of here with that. And right then his wife walked in. Do you remember
Wow.
the wife walked in, said, Bobby Joe or whatever his name was, you ain't doing that to them boys. And so he relented and he said, get out of here then. And so
Yeah.
he nonchalantly started, you were uncorking your cue. And he said, then he screams, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And
I
so we
remember he just acted like he was running after us and we ran out the back door.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it was risky, but man, you put on a show that night. That was a clinic. You
Yeah,
busted out of your whatever was holding you back on taking some of those matches off. That ended that night then and there.
well, it was great because I mean I had to, like, I was a kid and I didn't need to make the money. You, on the other hand, had a wife and kid, and you were out there, and you made me get serious because and I've written a few stories like I was breaking even. I just couldn't take, and that, I think every player goes through that when you'll
Yes, we
get up on somebody and then you'll mentally relax a little bit or whatever happens, get distracted, and they'll come back and get even and maybe even beat you. But when you're on the road, you can't afford to do that. You have to win every time you play. So I always give you the credit for helping me get over that hump because you know you made me realize that it wasn't just a game, that it was a serious deal, and it helped me a lot in the future after we were no longer on the road together. I kept up that same attitude for the rest of my road days, where I knew I had to win when I played. Breaking even was not an option. So
yeah. That's when a young player gets real good to where he's playing real good, that's his last hurt. Well, last major hurdle is to learn how to take it off.
yeah,
Get ahead, stay ahead, and then put it on their neck and end it.
Yeah.
Don't let them make that comeback, because they come back, they get even. They say, "Oh, well, I had fun."
Yeah. Oh, that's happened. Yeah. Yeah.
Got
That's usually what happens. They're so happy to get even, they quit and they feel
yeah,
like they won
yeah.
all the money.
You've got number one. You've got to get them stuck. People say, stall this, stall that. I was never one for that. I just wanted to get them stuck, let them chase.
Yeah.
If they don't chase, okay, so be it. But at least I'm not going to play for 10 hours and break even.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And then a lot of times, they get a little weak and then you can spot them something and double the bet. And I mean, I know you've had several situations where you start up playing for 5 or 10 a game and win several thousand just
Mhm.
because the guy gets stuck and he can't quit. And then if you can give him a little bit of a handicap, you can pretty much win everything they can beg, borrow, and steal. you know?
They'll chase it. Yeah, that's a
Uh,
big lesson I learned, with the left hand, as playing guys that I know would have been so weak, if you're playing good right-handed. But since I can't get there with the left Duke, uh, guess what they're going to do to me? Turn into
yeah,
a world champion. It's just
yeah,
unbelievable. You give them enough chances, they're going to it's amazing. But I remember giving guys like that a ton of weight, and you get them so weak they can't make a ball,
yeah,
and
yeah.
can't do that anymore. But I
Yeah, a lot
wish.
of people might not know, but John had what deal was it? It was a problem with your neck where you could no longer play right-handed. I remember you got down on a shot that I saw in your head just turned
Yeah,
like you didn't want to look at it anymore.
yeah, involuntary, and it's kind of a pull in the muscle, and
Yeah,
so when I get down on the ball, it moves. But I've been playing right-handed for maybe a year now, and it's still there. But I try to pause when the stick's next to the cue ball, then repause on the backstroke.
mm.
And if it moves, then I wait till it comes back and pull the trigger.
So you are playing right-handed now a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it feels better, but I miss too many balls. So you play once a week. It's if I was playing every day, it'd be different. But
Yeah.
I've come a little ways in the last year.
Yeah, you were playing quite a bit last time I saw you, but you were playing all left-handed. So yeah, it would be tough. You told me that the main thing you couldn't target parts of the pocket. You kind of took that for granted, right-handed, where because to play good position, you have to, you have to change the angle because a lot of times you don't have the exact angle, so you got to kind of cheat the pocket. And when you're playing real good, you kind of take that for granted. But you start playing left-handed or something, man, it's all you can do to make the ball, let alone hit the exact part of the pocket you want. But without that, you lose your cue ball, flexibility to get it around.
Yeah, I did not realize how much I and we all cheat that pocket on pretty much all the shots,
Yeah,
unless you're cinching the ball to get that shape. It's just because when I started having the problem, I couldn't aim good enough to do that, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is a lesson. How
yeah,
much we cheated the pocket on pretty much all the shots to get shape.
I remember you mentioning that, and but again, you take it for granted unless you. I mean, I quit for 7 years and came back, and I've had a hard time putting it all back together. When you're playing all the time, you don't realize what it takes to play at that level.
Yeah,
But you sit out for a while, the reality sets in.
yeah, tougher than you think.
Yeah. Well, John, man, it's a real pleasure to talk to with you in this, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. But I'm glad to hear you're still playing and staying in good shape. That's another thing that I admired about you. You were running anywhere from three to 5 miles just about every day back when we were on the road. Is that was a key with you as well, don't you think?
Yeah, it was. It's real big. Keeps you calm, and
Yeah.
of course, it helps with your stability.
And
You
back
can
then,
endure those guys that want to play for 30 hours.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. Back then, you had to be able. We were talking about take the guy off. You had to play until he was ready to quit. If you were ahead. So
Yeah, there was none of this. Well, I'm going to quit. I'll see you tomorrow. The hell you are.
no, man, they would blackball you if you did that. So
Yeah, you play until they're busted. You had to.
yeah,
You know, especially on the road.
exactly.
Yeah. So
All
great
right,
talking to
brother.
you too, CJ. Great to see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do this again sometime. And best of luck with you. And I hope you get that right Duke working a little bit better.
I'll let you know.
All right.
All
See
right.
you later.
Thanks.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, brother.
Okay. Bye.